All right, everyone, welcome back to our third segment. We're going to talk really briefly about Luigi Russolo. Luigi Russolo, he's an Italian futurist, and what was interesting about the futurists was they are a turn-of-the-century group who were particularly avant-garde in their thinking, and what they really wanted was to challenge the instruments that we have been using in the orchestra and write for a completely new set of sounds. Thinking about the historical context of the turn of the century, we are right on the heels of the other side of the Industrial Revolution. All of a sudden, the noise level of everyone's regular working day environment was significantly increased, and the sounds of machinery and automobiles, cars, like technology ended up kind of taking over, and composers thought that there was a lot of possibility with working with these new and different timbres. I have like a minute and a half of a Italian manifesto that's being spoken by the futurists that kind of gives you a little bit of insight into what they were all about and what they were trying to fight for. Let me go ahead and toggle over to that. So, turn of the century.
È dall'Italia che noi lanciamo questo violento, scioccante manifesto. Vogliamo che sia chiamato futurismo, perché vogliamo liberare questo paese da questa putrefatta cancrena di professori, archeologi, ciceroni e mendicanti. Per troppo tempo l'Italia è stata un commerciante di roba usata. Con questo vogliamo dire che è ora di liberarla dagli innumerevoli musei che ci assillano come tombe. Noi siamo l'ultima visione dei secoli, perché mai dovremmo guardare al passato quando vogliamo distruggere il mistero dell'impossibile. Il tempo e lo spazio sono morti. Ieri! Certifichiamo la guerra, l'unica forma di igiene, il militarismo, il patriottismo, la forza distruttiva dei lavoratori. Idee bellissime per cui lotteresti e moriresti fiero per la tua donna. Distruggeremo musei, biblioteche, accademie di ogni tipo, combatteremo il moralismo, il femminismo, ogni forma opportunistica di vigliaccheria.
When you read...
All right, very good. So a very passionate group in general, and they were really, really strictly and staunchly about out with the old, so much so that composers and thinkers like Luigi Russolo ended up making a completely different consort of instruments, much like Harry Partch. So Harry Partch was kind of influenced by perhaps Luigi Russolo and the other Italian futurists, with the idea that like we've already done a lot with the old. What about something different and new at this point, especially when we're on the cutting edge of technology and advancement? So Luigi Russolo created a whole combination of instruments that was his consort. And unlike Harry Partch's instruments, they're less pitch-oriented and more percussively oriented. Russolo left some very detailed descriptions on what the instruments sounded like and how to create them. So there was a museum that went to the trouble of recreating or refurbishing some of his original instruments and put them on display in the museum. And there's a docent, I suppose, that goes through and plays some of Russolo's original instruments. So let's go ahead and take a listen, much like we did with Partch, to some of Russolo's instruments. Okay, here we go. So these are the noisemakers. you can tell, all of these instruments are really percussive in sound. In fact, I am curious how one creates a melody using all of these instruments. When you're left with just percussive elements, it's much harder to figure out what's happening texturally in a piece of music. And we heard this a little bit with minimalism as well, especially within clapping music. The idea that both sounds are the same kind of timbre, one is not more important than the other, so you're sort of left with polyphony as an option. So what's important here is that Russolo, he wasn't the very first one who was really interested in creating new instruments, but the Italian futurists, which were spread out across all of the arts and humanities, were interested in the new, and very, very much out with the old. Harry Partch really followed in the footsteps of Luigi Russolo, but the big difference there again is that Harry Partch much more interested in pitch and the exploration of the different pitch capabilities that are beyond our 12-note system. And Russolo over here much more interested in like industrial sounds, which were really pervasive in the everyday around that time. So that's a little bit about the futurists and Russolo. We're not going to listen to one of his specific compositions. I spent a little bit more time on John Cage instead. However, we have one more composer that we're going to cover in our fourth and final part, and that is Edgar Perez. He had a hand in both acoustic instrumental composition and also electronic composition. So we're going to check out two of his pieces, one for each, and his interest in exploring new timbres, specifically in the realm of early electronic composition. So see you guys back for part 4 in just a little bit.